Today I want to talk from the topic Time to Push, and I'll be using Exodus, the first chapter, verses 8 through 10 and 15 through 17. And it says, "Now the king rose over Egypt, who did not know Joseph. He said to the people, 'Look, the Israelite people are more numerous and more powerful than we. Come, let us deal shrewdly with them, or they will increase. In the event of war, they'll join our enemies and fight against us and escape from the land.' The king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, one of whom was named Shipra and the other Puah, 'When you act as midwives to the Hebrew women and see them on the birth stool, if it is a boy, kill him. But if it's a girl, she shall live.' But the midwives feared God, and they did not do as the king of Egypt commanded, but they let the boys live." Many years ago, I was drawn to a little book that's based on a prose poem called The Invitation, written by a woman who goes by the name of Araya Mountain Dreamer. After I read the lectionary text for this week, I remembered that poem, and I want to share just a little bit of it. It doesn't interest me to know where you live or how much money you have. I want to know if you can get up after the night of grief and despair, weary and bruised to the bone, and do what needs to be done to feed the children. Ever since I got married and now have a young person in the house, I've learned that everything changes when a child is involved. It gives you a new perspective and a new sense of responsibility. It doesn't even have to be your child. We have nieces and nephews and children of friends, and we have neighbors and students and godchildren. No matter whose child it is, there should be a level of concern about their well-being. When I look at Cameron, I am even more concerned about the fact that we are at a tipping point when it comes to our environmental future, or that basic moral goodness seems to be shifting, or even that democracy is under attack. Children of all races and cultures are impacted by these concerns, but especially Black and brown children all around this world. We may not have a leader saying throw the babies into the river, but we have one that thinks global warming is okay, or that it's a hoax, or that it doesn't matter that so many families are poor and food insecure, or that he demands that children attend school face-to-face, even though COVID-19 is still running rampant. Could it be that this is but another plan to minimize the multiplication of a growing majority, like Pharaoh tried to do to the Israelites in the text? The scripture for today comes out of the book of Exodus, which is listed as the second book in the Bible. The stories in Exodus are pretty widely known, either from Sunday school or from watching the Ten Commandments every Easter season. But let me provide a little background to the book itself. Although some traditional ways we've learned about Exodus say it was written by Moses, that is not the case. The final form of the book is believed to come from the 6th century BCE, during a time of exile for the people of Israel. Its initial intention was to address a group of people in Jerusalem who had to practice their faith in the context of political and religious domination by foreign powers from Babylon and Persia. The book of Exodus was a literary, pastoral, liturgical, and theological response to this crisis. It was meant to infuse a sense of energy, courage, and divine agency in an environment where the empire was trying to crush the Israelites. It tells the story of how even under the worst circumstances, God is able to deliver God's people. Exodus is not a book of strategy or procedures on how to gain freedom, but it does provide hope in the fact that God will hear in the 6th century in Jerusalem, just as God heard the abused Hebrews in Egypt. In the passage read for today, we find the story of an insecure, frightened king who had no concern for the policies of his predecessors and had no intention of adhering to the agreements made with the descendants of Jacob and Joseph. All the king knew was that the people of Israel were multiplying. I'm not sure if his fear was that the Israelites were becoming a majority, or as the text says, he was afraid that the Israelites would join with Egypt's enemies and attack from within. For whatever reason, the king's fears made him have the Israelites oppressed under forced labor. But even then, the Israelites continued to multiply. So the king decided to stop the growth by having the midwives kill all of the male babies. But what he did not know was that the midwives, Shiphrah and Puah, had more allegiance to God than they had to him, so they let the babies live. And most of us know the story from there. One of those babies was Moses, who was put in a basket and put into the same water that should have been used to kill him. But instead, he was found by Pharaoh's daughter and nursed by his own mother. And the rest is pretty well known, that Moses grew to be the one chosen to lead the Israelites out of bondage. But the people I'm most blown away by in this text are the midwives, Shiphrah and the other one, Puah. What gave them the will and the confidence to go against what Pharaoh had commanded? Clearly, they were told to kill the boys and let the girls live. But Shiphrah and Puah decided to let all the children live. That was a bold and risky decision to make. Like the poem stated, they were able to do what was needed for the children. To them, God's will was more important than Pharaoh's. They had to decide if they were going to follow the directives of a fearful and cowardly leader or follow what they knew to be right in their heart. They made a courageous choice. Michelle Obama said, "You can't make decisions based on fear and the possibility of what might happen." How do we make decisions in our lives? Do we always take the easiest path, or do we look at the bigger picture? There are times when we all need to decide if we're going to blindly follow someone else's direction, or are we going to think for ourselves and consider the moral implications of what we do? Some of us have held back on things that we know were right, but we didn't do because we are afraid. We're afraid of what someone might say. We're afraid of the responsibility that comes with that decision. We're unwilling to take a step into the unknown. But you know, your next step into excellence is somewhere you've never been. Excellence in life is not a target, not a destination. It's a target. It was Thomas Jefferson who said, "If you want something you've never had, you must be willing to do something you've never done." Maybe you are meant to run for office, or maybe you're the one to write the book, or maybe you want to go back to school. If what you're considering is for the greater good, to benefit your family, your community, your country, your world, go ahead and do it. You have everything in you already that you need to make a courageous step. Is it moral? Is it loving? Is it life enhancing? If it is, then go ahead and take a step. It can be a small step, but move beyond your fear. It was Audre Lorde who said, "When I dare to be powerful, to use my strength in the service of my vision, then it becomes less and less important whether I'm afraid." And it was Barack Obama who said, "The best way to not feel hopeless is to get up and do something. Do not wait for good things to happen to you. If you go out and make good things happen, you will fill the world with hope. You will fill yourself with hope." The midwives in the scripture took a bold step based on what they knew to be right, and they let all of the babies live. We're called to be midwives like Shiphrah and Puah in our current time. No, we aren't called to literally deliver babies, but we're called to let the babies live. We're called to be what I call social midwives. All of this midwife language does not mean that this message is only for women. There are both male and female midwives. If we look at the etymology of the term, it means in the Middle English, mid, which is with, plus the Old English, with, which is woman. So the term means with woman, not that you have to be a woman. We can all be social midwives or midwives, period. We're all created to use our lives to facilitate new life. It was Ralph Waldo Emerson who said, "The purpose of life is not to be happy, it is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have it make some difference that you have lived and lived well. So you say we're supposed to be social midwives. Okay, what do social midwives do? Let's follow the pattern of what regular midwives do. They provide preconception care, prenatal care, labor and delivery support, and newborn care. For preconception care, as social midwives, we need to care for the person before they even plan to get pregnant, which means we need to support one another and help each other to identify our options. Some of the reason we've not birthed these new ideas is that we can't see all of the possibilities around us. That's why, as present-day midwives, we need to encourage one another as we explore new ways of being. We need to help people to see that there are things that need to be addressed, like caring for the environment to help slow down global warming, or that we're birthing into an environment where there is racial inequality. But we also need to remember that there's also a lot of political nonsense we're being birthed into. But you know, with all of these difficulties, life is still a beautiful choice, and every day is a blessing, and we can't forget that. As social midwives, we also provide prenatal care. We need to check in with each other, see if there is any way we can help somebody. How many of us know our neighbors? What friend or family member do we need to touch base with? Make sure we do all we can do to help provide food and shelter to our brothers and sisters around the globe. We have work to do. As social midwives, we also offer labor and delivery support. In life, there's going to be labor pains. Birthing something new is never easy. These dreams or callings that we're birthing get heavy over time, and they need to come out. Sometimes we need someone to encourage us to push. We are here to help folks get unstuck. H. Jackson Brown said, 20 years from now, you'll be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than by the ones you did do. So throw off the bowlines, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, discover. As social midwives, finally, we offer newborn care. Isn't it infuriating that there are so many conservative people who claim to be pro-life? These are religious folk who turn the other way and sell their conscience and their souls to evil leadership that knows how to manipulate them using buzzwords. Is the term really correct that they're using? Is it really pro-life or is it pro-birth? Where is the concern for the lives of persons after birth? Is living in poverty pro-life? Is being labeled and devalued all of your life pro-life? Is being birthed into a deteriorating environment pro-life? Is living without meaningful gun laws pro-life? Perhaps the truth is, like Pharaoh, the babies can be born, but destroy them once they get here. Like Shipra and Pua, we are here to let the babies live. We're here to make sure everyone has health care. We're here to work to end systemic racism. We're here to demand that individually and as a nation, we do all that we can do to protect this environment we've been blessed with. We're here to help create opportunity for each other. And we're here to encourage people to vote to save our democracy. And we're here to follow through on those dreams that we set aside. We can model possibility for people who come behind us. We can live those dreams that we set aside. I'm glad today that the story in the scripture did not end in death. The story goes on to say God orchestrated life so that one of those babies who lived ended up being the one who led the people of Israel out of bondage. Just as the text was written so that the Israelites would have hope during their period of Babylonian and Persian oppression, it is also for us today. We may be going through a difficult time right now, but God is still with us, and that gives us hope. What kind of world do we want to leave for future generations? The world needs us all to do all that we can do to make this a better place for all of us. As Jana Stanfield said, I cannot do all the good the world needs, but the world needs all the good I can do. No matter what the leaders of our time do or don't do, let's stay committed to birthing a better world. Let's all do our work of being social midwives, knowing that God is working through us and helping us along the way. It's time for us all to push.
Thanks for listening. Join us next week at 10 a.m. Eastern Time via Zoom. Send me an email to drkathi100 at gmail.com. That's DRKATHI 100 at gmail.com. And I'll send you the information so you can join by Zoom. Well, have a great week.